Let's go.
Caitlin Clark just got slapped with an official warning from the WNBA Commissioner, and basketball fans are absolutely losing their minds. The rookie sensation who took the league by storm is now facing heat from her own organization after her incredible performance at the RSM Classic golf tournament. The woman who can drain three-pointers from another zip code apparently crossed some invisible line when she decided to crush golf balls instead.
Okay. So serious. Did you put snaps in here? Yeah. You guys want to get out here and hit it hard? We're here.
So, Caitlin Clark is playing golf again. She is playing in, she played in another pro-am, and as expected, you know, Caitlin Clark golf is the most relevant thing in women's basketball.
But here's where it gets absolutely ridiculous. Clark didn't just show up to play a casual round of golf. She dominated the event like she was born with a golf club in her hands.
You got it, too. Continue to work the cameras back. Yep.
Pro-ams right now.
I mean, it's unbelievable, isn't it? I'm a big fan of Caitlin Clark, obviously, being a women's sport, and there's not a lot that this young woman cannot do. This is her second shot into the par 4.
We're talking about 270-yard drives that left seasoned pros scratching their heads and wondering if they picked the wrong sport. The basketball superstar teamed up with Ryder Cup captain Zach Johnson and PGA Commissioner Jay Monahan, and she didn't look out of place for a single second. The golf world went completely nuts for Clark. Jay Monahan called her Transcendent, which is basically the highest praise you can get from someone who watches Tiger Woods play on weekends. Fans were lining up around the block for autographs, kids were looking at her like she just walked off Mount Olympus, and even the toughest golf critics were admitting she had serious game. The crowd was literally chanting her name at a golf tournament. When has that ever happened for a basketball player? Not only that, but Clark handled the pressure like a seasoned veteran. When she sent her opening drive straight into the water, she didn't throw a tantrum or blame the wind. She just laughed it off, reset, and came back swinging. That kind of mental toughness is exactly what made her the 2024 WNBA Rookie of the Year in the first place. Here's the kicker though. While the entire golf universe was celebrating Clark's crossover success, her own league was sitting in complete silence. No congratulations tweet, no Instagram story, not even a basic acknowledgement that one of their biggest stars just proved women athletes can dominate in multiple sports. The WNBA's social media team acted like Clark had vanished into thin air. Let's take a moment to rewind and understand what really happened here. Clark wasn't trying to abandon basketball or disrespect the WNBA. She was simply showing the world that elite athletes can excel beyond their primary sport. She was building bridges between different fan bases and bringing positive attention to women's athletics as a whole. The RSM Classic became Clark's personal showcase. She connected with families, inspired young girls who had never watched a WNBA game, and got their golf-obsessed parents curious about her basketball career. She was literally expanding the WNBA's potential audience for free, and somehow that became a problem worth an official warning. But wait, it gets even more insane. The WNBA Commissioner didn't just stay silent about Clark's golf success. Behind closed doors, league officials were apparently having emergency meetings about what they called her brand management issues. According to internal discussions that surfaced later, the Commissioner was concerned that Clark's outside activities were becoming a distraction from the league's carefully crafted image. The warning itself was delivered through Clark's team representatives, but the message was crystal clear. The league wanted her to focus exclusively on basketball and tone down her public appearances in other sports. They were worried that her growing popularity in golf was overshadowing the WNBA's marketing efforts and making other players look bad by comparison. Here's the most ridiculous part. The Commissioner cited concerns about maintaining competitive focus and representing the league appropriately. Apparently, excelling at another sport while being humble and gracious somehow violates WNBA standards. Clark was literally being punished for being too good at too many many things. Not only that, but the warning included specific language about social media conduct and public appearances. The league wanted approval rights over any future sporting events Clark participated in outside of basketball. They essentially wanted to put their brightest star in a cage and control every aspect of her public persona. The timing of this warning was absolutely brutal. Clark had just finished an incredible rookie season where she broke attendance records, brought massive television ratings, and single-handedly made the WNBA relevant in mainstream sports conversations. Her jersey sales were through the roof, ticket prices were skyrocketing in every city she visited, and suddenly the league decided she was the problem. Let's break this down even further. Clark's golf performance wasn't some random publicity stunt. She's been playing golf seriously for years, and her skill level at the RSM Classic proved she belongs on that course. She earned every bit of praise she received from the golf community through legitimate talent and hard work. But here comes the real bombshell. Sources close to the situation revealed that some veteran WNBA players had actually complained to the commissioner about Clark's golf coverage. They felt like her success was making them look lazy or untalented by comparison. Instead of being inspired by a teammate's versatility, they saw it as a threat to their own standing in the league. The warning document reportedly included examples of Clark's golf-related media coverage and highlighted how it was generating more positive press than the WNBA's official marketing campaigns. League executives were genuinely upset that a player's personal achievement was outshining their promotional efforts. Here's where things get completely backwards. Rather than embracing Clark's ability to attract new fans and expand their brand reach, the WNBA decided to crack down on the very qualities that made her special. They wanted to dim her light instead of figuring out how to help other players shine brighter. The warning also addressed Clark's interviews during the golf tournament, where she spoke passionately about enjoying competition and challenging herself in different arenas. Apparently, expressing joy and enthusiasm for athletics outside of basketball was somehow inappropriate for a WNBA player. Then the internet absolutely exploded when news of the commissioner's warning leaked to the public. WNBA fans went into full meltdown mode across every social media platform imaginable. Twitter became a war zone with hashtags like Save Caitlin Clark and WNBA Hypocrisy trending for days straight. Basketball fans were posting angry rants faster than Clark could sink three-pointers. The fan outrage wasn't just your typical social media drama either. These were passionate supporters who had been following Clark since her college days, and they saw this warning as a direct attack on everything that made her special comment sections turned into digital protests, with thousands of fans threatening to boycott WNBA games until the league apologized. But here's what really sent fans over the edge. People started digging up examples of male athletes who regularly participate in other sports without any league interference. NBA players compete in celebrity golf tournaments all the time. NFL stars show up at baseball games and nobody bats an eye. The double standard was so obvious it hurt. Not only that, but fans began comparing Clark's treatment to how other leagues celebrate their stars' diverse talents. The NFL actively promotes players who excel in multiple sports during the offseason. The NBA encourages crossover appearances because it expands their brand reach. The WNBA apparently decided to go in the completely opposite direction. Social media influencers who had never posted about basketball before were suddenly making videos defending Clark golf enthusiasts who barely knew what the WNBA was, were creating content criticizing the commissioner's decision. Clark's punishment for being talented had backfired so spectacularly that it created an army of new supporters from completely different sports communities. Let's dig deeper into this fan revolt. Instagram stories were flooded with screenshots of the league's hypocrisy. Fans were posting side-by-side comparisons of Clark's respectful golf interviews versus some of the controversial statements other WNBA players had made without any consequences. The contrast was absolutely damning for the league's credibility. Here's the most telling part about the outrage. Parents who had brought their daughters to WNBA games specifically to see Clark were publicly stating they wouldn't support a league that punished excellence. These weren't casual fans throwing tantrums. These were paying customers with genuine emotional investment in Clark's success story. The backlash reached professional sports commentators who normally ignore WNBA drama completely. ESPN personalities were questioning the commissioner's judgment on live television. Sports radio hosts were dedicating entire segments to roasting the leagues backwards, thinking Clark's warning had become a national conversation about how women's sports treats its brightest stars. But wait, there's more insanity. Fans started organizing actual protests outside WNBA headquarters. People were showing up with signs reading, "Let Caitlin play golf and stop punishing excellence." The commissioner's office was flooded with emails, phone calls, and letters demanding they reverse the warning and apologize publicly. Here comes the nuclear option. Some of Clark's most dedicated supporters began threatening to cancel their season ticket packages and streaming subscriptions. The financial implications of losing Clark's fan base were becoming impossible for the league to ignore. Merchandise sales were already dropping as fans boycotted official WNBA products in protest. The fan outrage had transformed from righteous anger into organized resistance. Clark's supporters weren't just complaining online anymore. They were taking concrete actions that directly threatened the league's bottom line and public reputation. Now, here's where the WNBA locker rooms turned into complete chaos. Player reactions to Clark's warning created a massive divide that split the entire league down the middle. Some veterans were quietly celebrating that their rookie teammate finally got put in her place, while others were absolutely horrified by the commissioner's heavy-handed approach. The pro-Clark faction included several all-stars who understood that her success lifted the entire league's profile. These players were furious that the commissioner was punishing someone for bringing positive attention to women's basketball. They saw the warning as a dangerous precedent that could hurt any player who dared to excel beyond expectations. But here's the really ugly truth: a significant group of veteran players had actually been lobbying behind the scenes for exactly this kind of action against Clark. They were tired of seeing a rookie get more media coverage than players who had been grinding in the league for over a decade. Their jealousy had finally found an official outlet through the commissioner's office. Not only that, but some players started making passive-aggressive social media posts that were clearly aimed at Clark without mentioning her name directly. Posts about staying focused on basketball and not chasing fame outside the sport were obviously targeted at the golf situation. The subtlety was about as effective as a brick through a window. The locker room tensions reached a breaking point when several players were asked directly about Clark's warning during press conferences. Some gave diplomatic non-answers, others offered lukewarm support, and a few couldn't hide their satisfaction that she was finally facing consequences. The lack of solidarity was absolutely stunning. Let's examine the most explosive reactions. One veteran player who had been consistently overshadowed by Clark's rookie season actually smiled during an interview when asked about the golf controversy. She said something about how important it was for players to remember their priorities and stay committed to the sport that pays their bills. The pettiness was off the charts. Here's where it gets even more dramatic. Clark's closest teammates were caught in an impossible position. Supporting her publicly meant risking their own relationship with league officials. Staying silent made them look like fair-weather friends who abandoned her when things got tough. Several players tried to thread the needle with carefully worded statements that satisfied nobody. The divide extended beyond individual opinions into actual team dynamics. Practice sessions became tense when players disagreed about whether Clark deserved support or criticism. Coaches were struggling to maintain team chemistry while their star player was dealing with league-imposed drama that had nothing to do with basketball performance. But wait, it gets worse. Some players began questioning whether Clark's golf skills were even legitimate, or if the whole thing was a publicity stunt designed to overshadow their accomplishments. The conspiracy theories were ridiculous, but revealed just how deep the resentment ran among certain teammates. Here's the most pathetic part: players who had never shown any interest in golf before were suddenly posting pictures of themselves at driving ranges, desperately trying to prove they were just as well-rounded as Clark. The secondhand embarrassment was almost unbearable to witness. The veteran players who supported the warning started forming their own unofficial alliance within the league. They would coordinate their media responses and share talking points about maintaining focus and league loyalty. Their organized campaign against Clark was becoming more obvious by the day. Let's not forget the international angle. WNBA players from other countries were completely baffled by the controversy. In their home leagues, athletes who excelled in multiple sports were celebrated as national treasures. The American approach of punishing versatility seemed backwards and self-destructive to international observers. Now let's talk about the nuclear fallout that's reshaping the entire WNBA landscape. Clark's warning has exposed fundamental problems within the league that go way deeper than just jealousy over golf skills. This controversy has revealed a toxic culture where excellence gets punished instead of celebrated, and the long-term consequences are going to be absolutely devastating for women's basketball. The commissioner's decision has essentially told every talented young athlete that the WNBA doesn't want superstars who think outside the box. Future prospects are now questioning whether they want to join a league that actively discourages its players from maximizing their potential and building their personal brands. The recruiting implications are terrifying, but here's the most damaging aspect of this entire mess. Corporate sponsors who had been increasing their WNBA investments specifically because of Clark's marketability are now reconsidering their commitments. Major brands don't want to associate with a league that creates unnecessary drama around its most valuable assets. The financial consequences are already starting to show up in postponed sponsorship renewals. Not only that, but television networks are questioning their broadcasting deals with a league that seems determined to sabotage its own entertainment value. Clark's games consistently drew the highest ratings in WNBA history, and now executives are wondering if the league will find new ways to undermine their biggest draw. The media relationships that took decades to build are crumbling in real time. Here comes the most ironic twist of all. While the WNBA was busy punishing Clark for playing golf, other women's professional leagues were actively recruiting her for crossover opportunities. The LPGA Tour had already extended informal invitations for future Pro-Am events, and tennis organizations were expressing interest in exhibition matches. Clark's talent was creating possibilities that her own league was too stupid to recognize. The international basketball community has been watching this controversy with complete bewilderment. European women's leagues are already reaching out to Clark's representatives about potential overseas opportunities where her versatility would be celebrated instead of criticized. The WNBA's backwards thinking is literally driving away their most marketable star to international competitors. Let's examine the long-term implications for league governance. The commissioner's handling of this situation has destroyed any credibility she had with players, fans, and media members. Calls for her resignation are growing louder every day, and several team owners are privately expressing concerns about her leadership during such a critical growth period for women's basketball. But here's the most shocking development. Clark herself has remained remarkably composed throughout this entire circus, but sources close to her camp suggest she's exploring options outside the WNBA for her future career. The league's attempt to control her has backfired so spectacularly that they might lose her entirely. The warning has also emboldened other leagues to poach WNBA talent by promising more supportive environments for multi-sport athletes. International basketball organizations are using this controversy as a recruiting tool to attract American players who feel constrained by their domestic league's narrow-minded policies. Here's the bottom line that nobody wants to admit. The WNBA had a generational talent who was single-handedly elevating the entire sport's profile, and they decided to pick a fight with her over something completely trivial. Clark's golf success should have been celebrated as proof that WNBA players are world-class athletes capable of excelling in any arena. Instead of learning from this disaster, league officials are doubling down on their controlling approach. They're developing new policies to restrict player appearances at non-basketball events, which is only going to drive more talent away from a league that desperately needs every star it can get. The WNBA's treatment of Caitlin Clark will be remembered as one of the most self-destructive decisions in sports history. They had lightning in a bottle and chose to snuff it out rather than figure out how to harness its power. If you're enjoying this breakdown of how professional sports leagues can completely destroy their own success stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more content exposing the behind-the-scenes drama that shapes your favorite sports.